The night house he swore was under quarantine. The calendar square arrived at 6:10 p.m., neat as a feeding schedule. Friends of the Zoo Gala, Riverbend Park, late. 2 minutes later, Arlo texted, "Don't wait up." Vet team asked me to check a temp alert in the nocturnal house after speeches. Proud of me. Read he spends the heart when the rest of the sentence is applying for diplomatic immunity. I turned the soup down to the kind of simmer that calls itself maturity and looked toward the black seam of trees across the river. At dusk the zoo is a rumor with receipts. Lamps along the path like promises. The giraffe pavilion pretending height is a personality trait. The square on my phone pulsed once and then behaved. I rinsed an already clean spoon because sometimes unnecessary is the only honest verb available. At 6:26, a number I didn't recognize sent a message that recognized me anyway. If the gala's in the amphitheater, why did he just badge the night house? Service gate off Otter Walk. Reader hates witnesses, cover it and lean. I can hold sweep 2 minutes. Signed with a single letter, Q, as if the alphabet had leaned on a keeper's cart and promised not to rattle. Quinn runs nights at Riverbend the way a careful hand runs soft light. Out of sight, gentle, sure. He and Arlo trade competence in a dialect of locks, keyboards, and creatures that vote with silence. He and I have shared 2 cigarettes by the feed room door, and once a laugh sharp enough to make a camera aim at the floor like glass had learned decency. We have not touched. I remember not touching more clearly than most men remember vows. "Why tell me?" I wrote. "Because your calendar is polite and my badge logs aren't," he sent. Because he looked up before he swiped. People only look up there when they want oxygen. Because under quarantine is keep out, the way champagne is hydration. The service gate tasted of iron and campaigns. I palmed the reader's sulking eye and leaned. The latch remembered mercy and gave. Night house keeps its own weather, breath-warm corridors and air that's learned to be gentle for things that never met noon. Past employees only, a sign reminded people what red means. A smaller sign reminded air of the same. Somewhere a sugar glider tried daylight on like a dare. He was where Quinn said he'd be. At a viewing window dim to midnight, jacket off, shirt open 1 button past credible, tie rolled into his pocket like a plausible denial. Opposite him leaned Sebastian Vale, developer, board vice chair, roomer with a townhouse, and a habit of calling ownership stewardship. 2 of Sebastian's fingers rested on the rail as if steel owed him interest. The other hovered near Arlo's wrist without landing, because proximity photographs better than contact when your brand buys habitats and invoices discretion. "Quarantine looks conversational," I said. Arlo turned. For a beat the truth used his face like glass before it reflects. Then the public version arrived, posture, breath, the tone fashioned for rooms that clap themselves good night. "Nate," he said. How did?" "Quinn likes nouns," I said. "I like doors." Sebastian smiled in the register of patron saints. "We were reviewing a temperature drift," he said. "Benefactors delight in knowing the night is kept correctly." "I prefer night that doesn't need an audience," I said. Arlo took 1 step toward me and let the floor keep the second. "We were listening for a compressor," he said. He wanted to hear the air without speeches. "Sound is persuasive," Sebastian said, opening both hands like tasteful parentheses. 2 minutes. The sweep is punctual, my driver is tolerant. He drifted toward the sloth habitat and admired his reflection in the glass like he'd trained it. As he passed, 2 fingers tapped Arlo's shoulder, punctuation, not possession. Arlo watched me the way men watch weather when they hope thunder has a different calendar. "I was going to text you," he said, lower now, in the register he keeps for mornings and the soft under my jaw. "After. I wanted to know I could leave this room without letting it rename me. You wanted to be caught, I said. Not punished, caught. He let one breath out, and the night inside the glass adjusted itself to fit us. A kinkajou near the corner rearranged its opinions. A red lamp considered being kind and decided yes. There is a temperature at which grammar resigns. I stepped into his space and put my mouth on his because habitats can't lie and people should try. He kissed back with the relief of a man who has been paying interest on restraint, compounded nightly by applause and polite wine. He tasted like Gala bourbon and a memory of fruit the animals hadn't yet chosen. My thumb found the hinge of his jaw and pressed. He made the small, involuntary sound I keep receipts for. His palm slid beneath my shirt and settled flat between my shoulder blades like a promise that refuses notarization. We didn't undress. The night house charges extra and cameras learn quickly. He broke the kiss first because he knows the exact second heat applies for narrative. He set his forehead to mine. A compressor somewhere changed its mind and stayed decent. I didn't kiss him, he said. I wanted to want to, I texted Quinn. You did, I said. He prefers oxygen to salvage. Sebastian tilted his head the way men do when they mistake approval for consent. He didn't approach. A fennec fox made a sound like a secret and then kept it. Come home, Arlo said. After I thank the person who hears doors, I said. Quinn waited where the keeper path turns politely into staff only, lanyard looped over 2 fingers, the patience of a man who has taught nocturnal hearts that dawn is optional. He didn't smile. He also didn't make mercy expensive. Sweep hits night house in 90, he said. If you don't want to explain your lives to a flashlight that knows your shoes, cut through feed prep, take the service yard out by waste. The yard cam believes every bin is a bin. You sent the message, I said. I opened a door, he said. You two remembered how to walk. Feed prep smelled like cut fruit arguing with bleach. The service yard had weather the sky rented by the hour. Waste breathed like the city's conscience. We chose sidewalks over lobbies because lobbies write captions. At home, the soup forgave me for confusing patience with character. We ate standing, like mammals who know where the bowls live. He told me Sebastian had been sculpting a compliment into a proposition for weeks, and he had helped because selection feels like love when usefulness empties your pockets. I told him Quinn had texted because some people choose air over alibi. He didn't ask whether Quinn and I had ever been a worse idea. I didn't say how a green exit sign turns Quinn's mouth into punctuation that finally understands itself. We didn't fight. There wasn't theater left to sell. Later, in bed, we left a sliver of cool like a reservation and let it surrender because the night had already billed us for restraint. He kissed me with the steadiness I trust more than policy. I put my mouth where his jaw goes humble and told it a morning. It was heat without spectacle. The building minded its lungs. The river rehearsed forgetting our names, and we approved the script. Morning behaved. Coffee made its case. The calendar square for tonight stayed blank, which in this town is the kink we can afford. Arlo tied a tie over a throat I intend to retire with patience and kissed me like the door already knew our names. He left to explain continuity to a breakfast that confuses habitats with ownership. At 9:12, a text arrived from a number saved as one letter. No night cam saw anything but glass. I looped a compressor test for 20. Consider it training. QI sent, you're very proud of your training. He replied, I'm proud of your exit. No punctuation correct. By noon, a society blog posted Sebastian haloed in champagne beside a photo of a red panda someone made stand politely in a caption. I scrolled past. It wasn't our room. At 1:21, Arlo sent a picture of our kitchen plant basking in a responsible square of sun. "Room exists," he wrote. The week pretended to be a feeding chart you could trust. Sebastian sent a revised pledge with fewer adjectives and more commas. Arlo read until commas behaved like a harness and set it face down. He pressed his forehead to my temple for 7 careful counts. The air remembered its job. 2 nights later, the zoo hosted Night at the Nocturnal. Honest wristbands, real families, children learning that darkness can be kind if you fund it. We went together, because sometimes the correct grammar is plural. Quinn nodded once from a shadow like an usher allergic to applause. Sebastian shook Arlo's hand while a photographer tried to make glass confess. A reporter asked about legacy. Arlo pointed to a keeper kneeling to show a boy how to offer fruit without scolding and said, "Legacy is what keeps rooms gentle." And the reporter wrote it down like she'd earned a truth. On the walk home, we cut along the levee where streetlight practiced patience. Arlo slid 2 fingers into my back pocket in the way that says not mine but here, and the knight did the decent thing and looked away. We burned the bread and ate it anyway. At the bedroom door, he kissed me the way good sentences land, without ornament, unavoidable. I answered as if verbs were the last honest currency. It did not stay tidy. It never does here. An anonymous account posted a grainy still from a keeper cam, 2 silhouettes by a pane gone black, one hand too near to be polite. The caption invented entanglement, the comments rented outrage and billed by the breath. I set my phone face down beside the plant and watched the plant win. Arlo texted a different image. Feed prep at noon. Quinn showing a teen volunteer how to listen to a chiller with a screwdriver while a temperature plot confessed contentment. Our version works for a living, he wrote. Sunday arrived with rain that remembered its lines. Quinn texted, "Night house is quiet. Want a stool where nobody sells you a seat?" We went. He poured us paper cups of coffee that tasted like competence and showed us which thermostat lies first, why you never trust a door that apologizes, and the tiny change in hum that means the system wants kindness. He didn't flirt with anything, not even the truth. He stood with his hands in his jacket pockets and told us a joke about rich men who think darkness is a metaphor. I liked him better for refusing to be necessary when he didn't need to be. Midweek, the foundation staged a press moment to announce scholarships for wildlife tech apprentices. Arlo spoke first, about bolts and volunteers and the joy of maintenance, the only speech that ages correctly. Sebastian promised to help the city meet its hours on time, a sentence that managed to spend nothing and still collect applause. After, he shook Arlo's hand and then looked at me with the careful respect of a man evaluating whether he cannot purchase. "You're both very good at exits," he said. "Practice," I said. He laughed because it was the only honest thing left on his card. A columnist with an adjective habit suggested Arlo's access came courtesy of Private Tour. The piece included a photo of glass that could have been any glass and a paragraph that could have been any rumor. The comments did their choreography. I carried the plant to the sink and let water talk to its roots like a promise we could keep. That night, we turned our phones face down and cooked like people who still believe heat tells the truth. On a windy Thursday, Quinn sent a single word, weather, and we met him by the quarantine gate where rain negotiates with wire. He showed us which drain floods first, where to stand when lightning auditions near vines, and how to hear the almost silent pause that means the breaker will miss its cue without kindness. He didn't ask about the photo. We didn't say his name out loud. 3 people wide beneath a building that has decided to forgive. We let the storm remove adjectives we didn't need. Life kept refusing to be purchased. Sebastian kept sending commas that wanted homes. Arlo kept returning them with better ones. The plant kept inventing a shade of green that turns vanity domestic. We kept our calendar squares blank on purpose, because blanks are the only promises rooms respect. Sometimes, near midnight, we walk past the night house and look in. From the path you can't see the hand that hovered like punctuation, or the small, decent posture of a man who teaches heavy air to be gentle. You can only see a disciplined glow pretending not to belong to anyone. That's as it should be. We circle the block and go home without letting the zoo perform at us. He takes my wrist like a man reteaching himself the grammar of doors. I think about the pain and the 2 minutes that were enough, about how some rooms try to own you and others teach you how to leave correctly. Sometimes I think about Sebastian paused by a reflection that refused to flatter him. Sometimes I think about Quinn's line, "I opened a door," and how it's the only biography I want for this version of us. Tonight's square is empty. We're leaving it that way. Let the night house keep its creatures and the city its applause. We have the service yard, a plant we refuse to let die, and the quiet grammar of a decision that knows where it belongs. Not in the rumor, not in the photo, but in the mouth that learned to say come home and mean it. If we get caught again, let it be by each other. The rest of the world can rehearse wonder. We'll be in the room that doesn't need it, counting breaths until they sound like chillers settling into kindness, and a morning we can afford, and calling that enough.